Hello everybody. Alright, so this is what we're doing for our class tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, so I guess you'll be watching this either Wednesday or Thursday. The idea is that I talk about some things that would be interesting and kind of outside the normal scope of what we'd be usually talking about, and then maybe give you some exercises and things to think about in terms of the content. But before we get started, I want to give an outline of kind of the schedule. If we look, let me minimize this just a second. There we go. If we look at the schedule here, we've got today's the 7th, or actually Thursday is the 7th, and so in 2 weeks the RET-CRIT exercise is due. If you have any questions about that, please come talk with me. I'd be happy to go over that with you, see what you've got going on, and give you some feedback before you turn that in. It should be a fun assignment. Try to keep it to 5 pages if you can, yeah, good luck. Again, let me know if you need any help with that. But apart from that, we've got our final projects that are due on the 12th. So let's talk about those for just a second. Let me open up the syllabus here. There we are. And we'll talk about the final project. Okay. So the final project is this major project or proposal. What we said for most people, this is going to look like a qualitative project that you've been working on that you want to finish, but this is just the first 3 parts of it. So the introduction, the literature review, and the method section is all you have to complete. You don't have to actually do the study, but you have to set it up as if you were going to do the study, if that makes sense. And I can help out a little bit with that too. So on next Thursday, it would be great if everyone could bring their ideas for their project proposals, and then we can talk about those and maybe take 1 or 2 and outline them so that you have a good idea of what this looks like. Now, these project proposals are for you. They're for you to get a good grasp on how qualitative works, and we want you to do a project that really relates to you, whether it could be an introduction to a possible thesis prospectus or something like that. But that's what we want out of this. We want it to be valuable to you. So that's the schedule. Hope that makes sense. We really only have the Q method exercise and the RET-CRIT exercise are the 2 ones left. We're not doing the in vivo exercise. We just don't have enough time for that one. And then the final project. So that's all we have left in the class. Again, the purpose of this class is to give you kind of an understanding of some basic qualitative methods. And then you take that basic understanding and you apply it into a larger project proposal, which is the last thing that we'll do with that project. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just shoot me an email and let's talk about it. And I want everything to be super clear. Okay, so for today, what we want to talk about, at least what I want to talk about, is publication. This is something that no one ever taught me. I never had a class on it. I never even had a lecture on it as a graduate student, even in my thesis program or my master's program or my PhD. And so what I want to do is just take a few minutes and talk about what it takes to get something published. Now, some of you may be in professional areas, or you may not want to go in academia. It doesn't matter because there's professional publications out there, and probably if you go into something in communications or communications related, then you need to know how to publish in professional places to make what you're doing a little bit more applicable to use research and things like that to make a name for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a quick PowerPoint here that I built, and I'm going to go through this and talk about some different elements of writing for publication, and talk about how you might do that. it doesn't matter. Again, let me reinforce this. It doesn't matter if you're going on the professional track or if you're going on a more academic track. This is quality information that everyone should know. Okay, and we assume that people do. If they know how to do research, they know how to get their stuff published. But that's not always the case. At least it wasn't for me, and it's not for a lot of people coming directly out of PhD programs. They just don't know how the process works in terms of getting things published. So that's what I want to talk about over the next few minutes. So the first slide here. I'm going to go through these questions one by one and try to answer them as best as I can and what I've kind of found and what makes sense to me. Okay, so number one, what can you publish? I had a professor once in my PhD program told the class to take their notes, to type them up, and try to get them published. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter the quality of it. Send it out there. There's value in trying to get stuff published, and you never know what someone is going to, an editor is going to like or not like. So even if you have an article that you've written for class or something you don't think is that strong, it's not that big of a deal. Just put your ego aside and send it out. I'll tell you a story about a guy that I was in my PhD program, a friend of mine who was a perfectionist, and he kept polishing his articles and polishing and polishing, try to get them perfect. And there's always more to do on it. There's always more that you can try to get done. And it just took him so long to get things published that he eventually didn't get tenure at the places that it was at because he wasn't publishing enough, just because he wouldn't push it out. Okay, so the number one rule is write an article, do your best on it, stop. Once you finished it, edit it one more time, maybe send it to a professional editor, and then send it out. You all know people who are really good at editing. They could be people in your cohort, or they could be people that you know from your ward or your family or things like that. And I'll show you some examples in a second from this that you can get published. BYU has a editing service for faculty. I'm not sure how that works with graduate students, but if you want to put a faculty member on your paper, that faculty can use money in his or her research fund to get something edited through the editing service. And again, I'll show you some examples of that in a second. But it's really, really, really good. So what can you publish? Just about anything, as long as it's somewhat of quality. And then don't hesitate to push it out, even if you don't think it's ready. Let the editor reject it, or let the editor assign it to reviewers who then reject it. And then you clean up. They tell you what to do, and you clean it up, and you're good to go, right? So there's value in all of this. Okay, number two, where should I publish? This is an interesting one. What you can do is look for places that publish articles like you publish in. So I'm going to open up a tab here and go to the BYU library. And this is a good place to start trying to find places to publish your stuff. So I go to databases under C, and then I scroll down to Communications Mass Media Complete. Let's say my area is culture, and I'll type in culture here, and I'll look at some of the, that's going to give me a ton of different things. Yeah, 46,000. So I'm going to look at different articles, and I'll look at let's say I want to look at culture and social media, which is actually what I do. So look at culture and social media, and I look through here and I find articles that are kind of like the ones that I'm doing. And so let's say I'm not doing that. Let's see. Okay, moving convergence culture towards cultural intermediation, social media, and cultural inclusion. Let's say that's kind of my area. Here's a journal called Journal of Media and Cultural Studies, and then I can do a little bit of research. Journal of Media and Cultural Studies. I'll look it up. It's a Taylor and Francis. No, that's Continuum. There it is. Oh, it is, Continuum. I've actually submitted to this one before. And this will give me all of my information on the journal. There's usually an editorial policy. Information for authors is over here. It'll tell me the things I need to know in order to submit something there, right? Maybe it will, apparently it won't. But this is a good way to find journals within your area that publish stuff that's like yours, okay? We could go back and look for Q method. Say we want to do that since we finished that last week. Q method, we'll just do Q method, and we'll search for that one. And we can see all the Q method stuff, some of the Q method stuff. This one was one that was done by, and that's a really good journal too. This one is a journal that, or was an article that was published in a class, and these are all of our grad students who worked on it. So again, you can publish together, and not all of these people went and got a PhD. She didn't, and he didn't. So it's just a really good thing, right? I'm trying to think if I can find Robinson in here. Nope, I guess he doesn't count. I'll tell him that I did a search for Q method and his name didn't pop up. He'll be happy about that one. Okay. So that's one way. Another way is to see if I can find it. I had a publication. I may have loaned it out. No, I didn't. It's called Iowa Guide to Journals. And and it has a bunch of journals in here, and what they do, let's look. We don't want, oh, here's Journal of Media and Cultural Studies and Convergence. These are two journals that I've submitted to in the past. That's why the page is down on it. And what it does, it tells you all the information about it, the email for it, the website. And the most important thing that's in here, see if it has it, is acceptance rates. So Continuum has acceptance rate of 30%. I don't know if you can see that. 30%, and Convergence has an acceptance rate of 25%. What that means is that out of 100 articles that get sent into that journal, only 25% of them end up getting published. So the lower the number, kind of the better it is, because if you can get your article into there, it's more prestigious. Communication doesn't, we don't really have high impact factors. That's another measurement of the quality of a journal, is the impact factor. But communication doesn't have a whole lot of that. So we don't kind of, at least most of us, okay, communications has lots of different sub-disciplines and subfields. It's not like a huge field like engineering or other large fields. And so there's big journals that have really high impact factors in those fields, but communication doesn't. So you gotta establish the quality of the journal in another way. Let me show you one more thing here. Let's see if I can find it. It is a list of journal articles. So see if I can make this just a little bit bigger so you can see it. It's not going to be bigger. That's okay. Make this bigger this way. Okay, I keep a, since I publish an intercultural, I keep a running list of some of the main intercultural journals with descriptions on some of them, so I know kind of what they do and how they operate. These first 4 journals are International Communication Studies, World Communication Association, World Communication Association, International Communication Association, National Communication Association. Those are big time journals because they're sponsored by the major organizations that we've got here. And then we've got some other ones here that I've gone through, and let's say I'm working on an article that has a political bent, here's a I do some of those every once in a while. So you have the acceptance rates on those. Here's the communication review, interdisciplinary analysis of communication institutions, cultural forms, blah, blah, blah. Right. Here's the continuum. I talked about that one. Convergence, we talked about that one. And just some other journals here that are interesting that could be possible. Look at this. This is studies on media and communication. Every once in a while, you'll have an article and you'll wonder, okay, where would this go? And you can get 3, 4, 5 journals and email the editors with the abstract and ask them if this would be a good fit. And I did this apparently for studies in media and communication, and this is kind of a note to me to submit something to them in the future. So you can build a list of different journals that might fit. And I've got these color-coded by some of the research I'm working on right now that might be a good fit. So that's what the highlights are there for. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Let me go back to my thing here. So number 1, what can you publish and where should you publish is number 2. How often should you publish? As master's students, if you can get 1 or 2 things published, and if you want to get a PhD, it's going to look really, really good because that's going to show that you can do research. These PhD programs, they're all about publishing, and they're usually these D1 and Carnegie 1 research institutions, and faculty get tenure and promotion based off how many publications and the quality of their publications. And to do that and do that well, they set up these publication mills with the graduate students. If you can go in, if you can demonstrate your ability to 1, know how to do research, and 2, that you've already done it, then you're going to be really valuable to these PhD programs. So that's what you want to do. Now, if you're not going to get a PhD, that's fine too. But you still need to show that you can do research, right? And so the 3 skills, I keep talking about these 3 skills: research, writing, and presentation. Those are 3 skills that is going to make you successful no matter where you go. If you can do those 3 things, you're going to be great, right? You're going to be okay no matter what happens. And so even if you're not going to get a PhD, if you can demonstrate that you can publish, you're going to be great. You're going to be okay. We had a grad student, this is probably 6 years ago. She was so good at it, you just give her a topic and she would go and come back with everything done all the way through the method section. And she had research down, had it down pat. And when she graduated, she did not get a PhD. She went and worked, I think, at Vivint, some other places, running their research departments. And then BYU Idaho stole her away to kind of run some of their online stuff. But if you can do it, it's going to put you so far ahead from everything else. Okay. Next question. Can you publish and take your research to the conference at the same time? The answer is yes. The thing you can't do is take your research to 2 different conferences, the same article to 2 different conferences, and you can't, at least in communications, you can't send an article to multiple journals at the same time, right? So there's kind of a bottleneck. If you think something's good and you want to take a shot at this high-end journal, it may be 6 months before you get a rejection, and so that's kind of hard. Okay, so those are the rules. You've just got to do them one journal at a time, one submission at a time. Okay. All right. Next question: what is the review process like if you want to get something published in a journal? How does that look? I want to show you something here. I keep track. I don't know if you can see this. I keep track of my submissions to different journals, and the crosser outs, those are the rejects, and the highlights are the accepts. And the interesting thing about this, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 articles on this first page here. Out of those 8, 2 were published. Second page here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 with 1 publication. Next page here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with one publication. Although you'll see here the Q sort. This is a Q sort that we did, and it took us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different submissions to get it into a journal that accepted it. Right. So this is kind of the dirty secret of a publication, is that a lot of this is arbitrary. An editor wants something for a journal, wants to kind of brand that journal, and maybe your stuff fits in it, maybe it doesn't. My very best publication, my top publication I've ever had, was an article that I thought was really good, but I wanted to get it published, so I sent it to the Southern States Journal to get it published, and they didn't even send it to reviewers. They just emailed back and said, no, this is not going to work, it's not good. Well, I knew that was garbage. I knew that wasn't right, and so I did nothing. I said, I don't think that editor knows what he or she's talking about, and I flipped it and I sent it to the very best journal that it fit into, and it got accepted, right? And with a revised resubmit, but it got accepted and published in that journal. The thing with you may look at all these different rejects and think, oh man, he doesn't know what he's doing, and well, that may be true. This isn't uncommon for researchers to have lots of different rejects. It's just find the right fit, and you may have good stuff, and you probably do. But a reject isn't a bad thing necessarily, because you take the comments, and I'll show you some comments in a second, and show you what they look like. Then you can redo your paper. The very first time, my very first job out of graduate school, I did a research project on my own as sole author, and I sent it out for a journal, and it got rejected. Right, this is the days when you got letters back. So I got my letter back, and I opened the letter, and I was all excited because the journal, emailed me back, or mailed me back. And the letter, I opened the letter, and it said, you're rejected, blah blah blah, and I was crushed, right, heartbroken. And there was another lady who'd been in our department, and she was a senior, was a full professor. And I took that letter to her, and I'm like, what the heck? This was a good article. What happened? And she started laughing at me, and she said, Clark, I could wallpaper my office in rejection letters. And this is a lady that she'd written a couple books at the time, and she had, 30, 40 pubs. It's just the way it works, and that's fine, right? Everybody kind of knows that, okay? So don't be discouraged if you get a rejection. That's just the way the world works. I want to show you now, hang on, I'm going to go I'm going to type in manuscript decision. I'm going to show you what that looks like now. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this one was one that I was a reviewer for. And let me just show you, just not to brag or anything, but let me look at, I need to look at, I want to show you, see if I can find it. Might be down here, my Vita, where I have examples of some of these stuff. I know I have my Vita. My Vita's here someplace. Well, I'm not having a lot of luck finding it. It might be under the other thing here. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. But somebody has to review this stuff, right? And I'm not finding my Vita. It's here. Oh, I'll just search it. Quit being dumb and search it. So a Vita, if you don't know, is an academic resume. Here it is right there. Dumb. And it shows all the stuff that you've done. And I just want to show you the reviewers. So these are the articles I reviewed for these journals this year. I've got another open one on New Media and Society. I actually got 2 open article reviewers, and so what I'm going to show you right now is the review I did for this one right here. So a lot of times the editors of the journals will send a letter out to the reviewers saying whether they accepted or rejected the article that you reviewed for them. So if you look at this one, it's kind of small. Let's see if I can make it bigger. The final decision for this manuscript, this is the name of the manuscript, right, was reject, right? So the editor rejected this article. And this is the letter that they sent to the person. And this was my review, where you go through every page and talk about some things that, like, there's some dated references. Much of the justification relies on a small number of sources. Don't mention things that it's gonna cause you problems. So you just go through the article and try to look for issues that would be it brought up if it got published that people would have trouble with. You can also see the second reviewer, who was a little more picky than I was, maybe, I don't know. But a lot of times reviewers like to put their stuff in. So who knows if this is Parks? I might guess that it is, but who knows? My goal is to, as a reviewer, is to help the article get published, and so you try to strengthen it and let the editor know what the weaknesses are, but let the author know the ways to fix that so that it can be published. I'll show you another one here. This is one that we got back, and Lucia probably saw this one, because this one was the one that Robinson, Lucia, and some other of us submitted. And these are the reviewers. Reviewer 1, we can do everything Reviewer 1 wants us to do. We can do everything Reviewer 2 wants us to do, but Reviewer 3 is absolutely crazy, right? So he or she wants us to reframe the study, redo the lit review, all these other things that we're not going to do because it's dumb, right? And so you get, sometimes when you get reviewers or people looking at your stuff, they tell you things that shouldn't be done. Robinson's a full professor, with 40 publications. I've got almost 30, and in between both of us, we know what a good article looks like. And this article isn't bad, and this reviewer is stupid. So we're gonna just email the editor and say, we'll do what we can, but it's not gonna work. And then the editor has to make a decision on that. Right? I hope this is interesting to you. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but it's kind of cool, right? And you can see here, here's another one, right? This was me in my review. All right, let's go back to the, get back on track here, right? So examples of review, I've given you kind of the preliminary stuff on get your content published. All right, let me talk about how to write an article. And to do that, I'm going to show you some examples. And the examples I'm going to show you are from edited manuscripts. So this first one is from an article called Negotiating Adaptation. And this was an article that actually got published in Communication Culture Critique, which is a really good one. And these are the comments from the editing service on it. I had it clean, I had it ready to go, I had it, ready to publish, and I sent it out to them and they tore it up, right? You can see their comments here. One of the things that I'm particularly bad at in my writing is the introduction, getting the introductions just right. And that's where they focus most of their comments were there. But I cleaned it up. You know, you got to humble yourself, clean it up, because there's always somebody who has a different opinion of you, and most of the time, if they're coming at it from a neutral perspective, they're going to be right and you're going to be wrong. So you just suck it up and you make the changes. I'll show you another one here. This was, I've told you, some of you, that my wife is a really good writer and editor. She's a content creator. You can see here, she hates the way I write introductions, and she tore it up, took things out, reframed, and made it better. And these are some of her comments for me to make it better there. All right, so number one, go back to my, you want to make sure that you take the information that people are giving you and value it, because it's really important, right? The number one thing that you can do to make yourself successful is to create an organization that is that works. Okay, so this includes introduction, lit review, method, section, right? Methodology is the science or the theory behind your method. The method is actually what you do. It's a recipe that you're creating. I'm going to run out of room here in a second. The results, and then discussion, and then conclusion. For qualitative, and I know I've said this before, you might combine these two, and you would combine that into the findings. Okay. So when you start off, here I'm going to give you some advice on your introductions. When you start off your introduction, you don't want a whole lot of fluff. Writing in the academic style or even trade style tends to be more direct, more to the point. So if you've got a lot of times that first sentence is things like social media is becoming an increasingly important part of everyone's everyday lives, right? That's a fluff statement, right? Get into it. Go back to my examples. I don't remember what I wrote here. Yeah, so this is a sentence that gets right into it, right? We get into culture. What is culture? How is culture? You know, that sort of thing. And you could say it's one way of doing it, but getting right to the point tends to work a lot better than putting a lot of fluff in today's society. A lot of cliche phrases, you don't want those at all. Those don't do you any good. So let's try to get those out, right? Next, you have an introductory paragraph, okay, an informational paragraph, and then I think that's where we are right there. Oh gosh, this is way too long. It did get published though. I think I'm into the lit review there. Let me go to another one. Okay, this is probably better. Okay, so we have an introductory paragraph, informational paragraph, and then you get into what the purpose of this is all about. Before you get into the lit review and everything, you want to have this paragraph right here that talks about. See if I can highlight it. There we go. That highlights the goal and the purposes of the paper. Okay, once you've done that, then you go into your lit review and talk about the different elements of research associated with your study that will inform your study, and then how the stuff that your study will inform back after you get your results, right? So that's really, really important. The organization is really important, and it has to be crisp and clear, to the point, and no extraneous fluff, right? So as for the content, make sure the most important thing is that you have this so what. Everything has to have a meaning and have a place. One of the most frustrating things as a reviewer or even as a professor or anybody reading anything really is trying to read stuff and figure out why it's there. Don't ever do that. There always has to be a reason why things are there. One of these, let's see if I've got a lot of times before the lit review section, I'll put a paragraph that explains what's going to be talked about in the lit review section. Just super helpful. It's like the old adage, tell them what you can tell them, and then tell them what you told them, right? That's the same thing, the way it works here, okay? Editing, I've talked about editing. And then lastly, make sure that your study has an impact. That's the so what. The most important part of anything that you do, any of your writing, is that, at least in academic writing, is the impact or the discussion section. In professional trade journals, it's going to be the so what. And it comes at different places, the two different types of writing, but it's still, there has to be the so what. Why are people reading it, and what does it mean? And how does it influence what you do and the quality of your paper? Okay? All right. I've already talked about where to publish. I think I've talked about a little bit of journal quality and a little bit about editorial insanity. So I think we've touched all of those topics. Okay, does that make sense? All this makes sense to you? My goal, well, not my goal, it would be really nice if you had some time and you got really into one of these mini assignments, that you move it up to more of a journal kind of quality sort of thing. I can help you do that if you want to. But reading through your stuff, you all have really, really good ideas and you write really well. It's time to step that up just a little bit. And I'm talking this class, but in general, and seeing if you can get some of your stuff published. I think it's great. Okay. Since I've only been going, 30, 45 minutes, I want to do an activity with you, and I want you to bring this to class next week, okay? This is what I want you to do to try to apply some of the stuff I've been talking about. Number one, I want you to select an article in your interest area. So if your interest area is sports, or if your interest area is culture, or your interest area is haunted houses, doesn't matter, right? Select an article in your interest area that you like, okay? Now I want you to read that article as if you were a reviewer. Does everything make sense? Are there problems with the article? Are there things that are confusing? And I want you to kind of deconstruct and be a critic of that article and how it's written, okay? Once you've looked at it, read through it, and done some critique on it, I want you to write half a page to a page, no more than a page, critique of the article, okay? And then lastly, I want you to make a list of journals in your content area that you could publish an article like the one you selected, right? So the idea here is to start thinking about research in terms of critique, in terms of style, in developing your own style, in your own way of seeing what's good and what's bad, right? So we want to move beyond the student and into kind of the professional academic role, and that's your transition from undergrad to grad, right? And then make a list of journals in your content area. It's going to be super helpful for you when you work on your own project, but if you work on a project with a professor or your group, you'll have a list, or there'll be a number of different lists if you have a group of journals that would be workable for you. Okay, does that make sense? I'm going to post this right now. As soon as I finish this up, I'm going to post this PowerPoint to Learning Suite so you can go back and look at this last slide and see if it's helpful to you, right? It's just a quick, easy one-page critique of an article. It shouldn't be too bad. Okay? Does that make sense? Let me make sure that I've covered everything that I want to cover. I think I have. Yeah, I think I have. So again, there's no class on Thursday. Watch this small video and then do the activity at the end, and then we'll get together next Thursday. Okay? And again, next Thursday, let me go back. Next Thursday, let me go back to my Learning Suite schedule. That's our schedule. Next Thursday, today's the Rec Crit exercise is due. Okay, so focus on that. If you need help, I'll be here on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Shoot me an email. I'll make sure I'm in my office, and we can work on it together. Happy to do that. Additionally, it's becoming more and more important for everybody to have their own portfolio. I talked about in that class before. If anyone wants to make their own website, I'm happy to help you do that too. All right, so that'll be it. The PowerPoint will be on the content area of Learning Suite, and then watch the video and do the activity, and you should be good. If you have any questions between now and next week, please email me. I'll be in contact. Hopefully, have Wi-Fi and be able to answer. Maybe not right away, but I'll try to find some time during the day to answer some of your emails. Anyway, I miss seeing you guys tomorrow. You guys are killing it, doing great work. Keep it up, and let's get deep dive down in this qualitative and get that in our tool belt. All right. Have a great week. Bye.